Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the pleasure and honor of having Mike Bottaro, a personal injury lawyer out of Rhode Island and Southern Massachusetts. And we thank you for taking time from your busy schedule, Mike, and being with us here on today's show.
Well, I appreciate it, Ken. I appreciate it quite a bit. And we're up here in New England, Rhode Island, and Southern Massachusetts. And we do tend to like our New England Patriots, our Boston Red Sox. So hope you won't hold that against us.
Not at all, man. Not at all. I think Belichick's probably the best coach in the league right now. I really do.
For sure.
Yeah. No, he is. He's there. He's a great leader too.
Which, by the way, that's not a bad way to start off with Belichick, because we actually talk about Belichick at the law firm now and again, and he's been doing it for so many years. What I find interesting about Coach Belichick, one of the things is he's still learning. At what is he, age 70? I mean, he is still out there in the off season visiting Nick Saban and traveling around and assisting coaches and all over the country. He still is passionate about learning and getting better and creating a culture and maintaining a culture of excellence. And that is something that a lot of us up here in New England really admire about Coach, even though some of his draft picks can be head scratchers.
Yep. But no, he is. He's a great leader. I mean, and that's I always like to analogize, when you're running any kind of business, I mean, you got to be a good leader and you got to have really good players, A players. The more A players you can have, the better it's going to be. And you got to have a great culture. And you just analogize all that. I talk about it sometimes to my staff. I said, we're no stronger than our weakest link, that sort of thing. And it's teamwork and all those things. But tell us your story, Mike. I want to know how you got into law. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into PI law, and just tell us the whole story, bring us up to date.
So where we are now is a product of so many amazing people that have helped get us here and help shepherd and mentor me in my life. And it starts with my parents. I have great parents who are still with us, and we love to hang out and play golf. And they raised me and my brothers in a suburb of Hartford, Connecticut, Italian Catholic family. And they would get me over to Boston College. And when I was in school, I got to meet an attorney up there named Jan Schlittman, who they wrote a book called The Civil Action. And then they turned it into a movie with John Travolta. And I love law movies, boy. If we get talking about law movies, my cousin Vinny, it's a 30th year anniversary this year. So, but at any rate, the story up there in Massachusetts had to do with Jan courageously standing up against large corporations for a lot of kids who were poisoned by the water up there and some adults as well. And that struck with me at an early age. And I knew I wanted to make my parents proud and do something with myself. And from my upbringing, I also wanted to help people. And so that maybe lit a fire for me to go out to law school out west in Colorado. And I was fortunate enough to gain an appellate judicial clerkship after that. And then I was just really fortunate to get in with some incredible trial lawyers as a young lawyer, which, nowadays is hard to find. And so I was mentored along on doing auto products liability, medical malpractice. Got some trial experience, all of that kind of stuff. And then got to come to Rhode Island to be closer to family. Worked for a firm there. I was involved in some complex civil litigation. Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts, where I live, it's a cool place. It's a small feel, and we've got some great, resources near us and everything. We got the water, and we've got a lot of family-oriented people here. And so it was great to get to know the court system, other lawyers, and put in time. For the first half of my career, it was just learning the craft, trying to get to court, trying to try cases, trying to learn discovery and all of that stuff. And it was just a work ethic that was kind of passed down to me, and I'm very grateful for.
Because your dad was an accountant, so I'm sure he worked some long hours around tax season.
I got these memories, and we talk about it sometimes, Ken, of my dad had started with a bigger accounting company, and then he went off and started his own company, which is what happened with me. So he had a little bit of that entrepreneur spirit. But I have fond memories of my mom and my brothers and I would go to his office late at night during tax season there in the wintertime and bring him dinner, and we'd kind of hang out and get to see dad a little bit. But absolutely, he would work very hard as an accountant. But the other thing was when tax season was over, I mean, he was so good about scheduling family vacations and even in tax season, of course. He was always, to this day, my dad is always there for my mom, my brothers, and me, and his extended family and friends. And it's really special to have that, to have my dad in my life.
Yeah, sounds like he's a great role model, something that, not everybody is fortunate. I mean, so that's a great thing. And you took hold of it and did something with it. So that's great. So how did you decide? You said you were working with this other firm. So what made you want to go out and start your own law firm? Because it's not for everybody, we know.
I'll tell you what, starting a law firm is, I've heard the analogy of it. It could be like, having kids, and, when you have children, they say it's a blessed burden of parenthood. It's the most challenging, perhaps, and maybe the most satisfying thing, depending on your experience, that you could do. And I think that's kind of how it's been. It's extremely satisfying, but also extremely challenging every day. And so, yeah, you got to have, I think, the right makeup maybe for it, or maybe you don't know what you don't know, of course. But yeah, what happened was I just was feeling that push, and I don't know, maybe it came from my dad, my mom, but I was feeling like I'd like to have the direct client contact. I wanted to really, and I didn't know it at the time, but a phrase that has come to me later in life is called servant leadership. I can't say that I knew that phrase when I was at that age in my career, but that's what I have found to be satisfying, is serving others. And by starting the practice and then growing the practice, you can practice personal injury law in a way that may be different from other people in your community, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be not just some jingle on television or some marketing slogan, but I wanted it to be authentic. And having the trial experience and the great mentors, I think, helped. But I wanted it to be a little bit different than what the perception was at the time of personal injury law.
So, the perception of personal injury lawyers it's right up there with used car salesmen. Except when somebody needs one, and then it changes. Or if they're my lawyer, all lawyers are crooks, but my lawyer. That's what I hear all the time. But no, like we were talking before we started, it's a very honored profession. It's something that that's the way I got in it. Is I really wanted to, number one, help people that didn't know how to help themselves, right or wrong. People that just didn't understand the system. And I also wanted to own my own business. And I grew up very poor. So I knew I had to get it, either be a doctor or a lawyer, and I faint when I see needles. So I knew that won't happen. So, but yeah, so I heard you talk about jingles and things like that. How do you market your law firm? Is it mostly referral?
Well, at the beginning, we didn't have any of that stuff. I mean, it was just me. So over the years, again, by having some big help and learning, the business side, like as you just pointed out, you wanted to own your own business. I had a vague notion of that, Ken, but I don't know, maybe like some of your listeners, it was the ability to have that direct contact more with the clients and all that. I didn't know a lot about business when I started. I really didn't. I didn't understand, a P&L or any of that stuff, really. And I liked what I did. I liked helping people. I like what we still talk about at the law firm. One of our core values is standing up, fight for what's right, standing up to the big corporations and the big insurance companies. I mean, that was all the stuff that kind of appealed to me. And of course, I'm not really answering your question. I mean, I think what happened is, honestly, it was just me and very few thought really went into as a business. It was just what my passion was. It was what I enjoyed doing, really. And it's really strange because I know my market and some of the big guys in my market, and I didn't have any notion of that. I mean, it was the idea of being able to be on a billboard or on a television screen was ridiculous. It was absurd. I mean, I wasn't even born in Rhode Island. I mean, think about that. I was not even born in Rhode Island, in my market, or southeastern Massachusetts. And many of the law firms here are second, third generation. They're guys with humongous budgets. They're Goliaths. They're huge. The guys that are the market leaders, so-called market leaders here are. So I didn't have any concept of that. I really was just about, had a passion to help people and try to have some measure of success. But that all kind of has come. And I really think it came from doing a good job for the client.
Yeah. You said something about your core values. And what I've found is, Mike, is firms that have core values and they follow it and they promote it, they have a really good culture, and they tend to keep good people and keep good people. Can you elaborate on that? Have you found that to be true in your law firm?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Core values is something that is absolutely central, that we talk about every day at the firm, that everybody at the firm knows our core values, because it's, when it comes down to core values, it's really how internally the expectations we have with each other, as far as how to do our individual jobs, and then how to work as a team. I mean, that's really a fun thing. We started this thing off talking about Coach Belichick, and I just I know the rest of the country, maybe whoever listens to this is, they're not going to want to hear a lot of Belichick or Boston sports talk, so I'll try to but to us here, I mean, the Patriot way is all about teamwork, and it's all about the idea of hashtag do your job. I mean, it starts with the individual job, and how do people know what their individual job is? Well, as leaders, we've got to provide the clarity in what that is and what that looks like and how we do it. So the core values of starting off on loving people. We're a people place, we're a people business, and that means internally and externally. So that's really important, and understanding that as kind of the starting place.
Yeah, I think, leaders, one of their big jobs is to coach people up, the really good leaders. And you'll see that they coach people up. They coach up people to let them be leaders too in the law firm. But
how do you, if you don't mind me asking you,
sure.
How do you, because I'm just learning every day, how do you do that? What are some things that you found, Ken, in your successful career as far as being a better leader?
Yeah. Well,
I think that's such a fascinating topic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, really, it is. We actually, believe it or not, we got a guy that's going to be talking about it at the summit, Bill Biggs, who is really good on it. And he just said it all, either it's all about leadership. If you're a great firm, you got a great leader, good leadership. If you're not, then you probably don't. But, I'm a certified coach in John Maxwell, and I read I read just about everything. He's written about 40 something books. I probably read about 30 of them. Okay. I haven't read them all. I'm not going to lie, but I went to a couple of his conferences, did his studies, and he's got a book called Leadership. And I've got a workbook that I work with law firms, people that want to try to build leadership in their law firm. And it's a 12 chapter book. So we either do 12 weeks, or we do 12 months, or we either do 6 months, twice a month. And we sit down, and whoever they want to be, you kind of know who your inner circle is, your key people. You want them to be leaders, right? They say you need a leader, maybe not a manager, but a leader for every 7, 8 people in your business to really scale it up and be very successful. So I've used that. I think reading stuff like that, but I think that's the big deal. Is another thing is, one of his book is, lead by asking questions. If you ask the right questions, you don't have, that really is really key, because that pulls it out of them, right? And gets them to see what it takes, So I ask a lot of questions. And something else you said earlier is just resonates with me. You've got to be a continual learner and hungry to grow. The great leaders are hungry to grow. They never stop wanting to learn because they know, I don't care how smart you are, you don't know it all, right? And there's always somebody else out there that you might be smarter in one area than they are, but they might be smarter than you. You cannot be an expert at everything, right? In fact, I even quit trying to do that. If I got some weaknesses, I just hire really smart people in that and I delegate. And I try to really leverage what I'm really good at because I'm running out of time, Mike. I'm almost 66. So, so I'm just really trying to, but I think that's the key to the leadership is coaching people up and using these things like John Mack. There's other books too, but I think that and asking the right questions and seeing what they want. There's another great book out there, Lencioni. He's written about 7 or 8 books. He's got The Ideal Team Player and then The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, 2 great books. I used to get my people at Pilma, I get them to read those books, and I actually do a webinar, like a PowerPoint, and we go over it, we talk about it because I want them to discuss it because they talk about the ideal team player, a player is somebody that's humble but confident.
Hungry.
Yeah, you know the deal, right? So you've read that.
Yeah, it's a great one. I love Patrick Lencioni and I love John Maxwell. I appreciate you saying that. I was curious as to, we do have a bookshelf and I encourage reading and we make suggestions and all that. How have you found it to be able to encourage your team to actually read the books? Because that is a challenge as well, right?
It is. There's this guy, this thing called the book club, Arnie Milham, that used to own CJ Advertising. I think he still got it. I learned about it in scale. I'm also a certified scaling up coach, by the way. So like I said, I've done all this in the last 3 or 4 years, Mike. I always want to learn more, Some people ask me, why the heck are you doing that, Ken? I said, she says, you've already got the status of an expert. I said, I know, but I don't know what I don't know, and I want to know more, because things change, times change, and I want to be better,
Can I just put a shout out to Arnie Malham? That is one of the mentors in my life. And I just want to say to Arnie how grateful I am for being a part of my life, because he is spectacular and a special, talk about a leader and somebody who helps other people. He's been a huge influence.
Yep, he is. He's a great guy. I've spoken on the same stage with him before, and he started that whole book club. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Better Book Club. That's a shout out for Better Book Club. We should be doing that more.
Yeah, and that's something you can go. I think it's like betterbookclub.com. You can go in there and people can get the books. You can get your people to read them. The way I encourage it is I usually just, I'm part of the scaling up deal. So we have a monthly meeting and I assign, or we have a quarterly meeting. And like the quarterly meetings, I might assign somebody to read one chapter, and each one of them's got to give a presentation, about what they got out of that, whatever. And then hopefully they'll all read it. Or then sometimes I'll just say, read the book, and then I do a deal and I ask a lot of questions. So, but the core values is we even do something that here at Pilma, Mike, we pick one every quarter, and we put it on our signature page of our email so that it's, so, that's our theme for this quarter, is we work as a team for the betterment of our members. That's one of our core values, and that kind of says it all, right? This episode is brought to you by Pilma Super Summit. June the 27th through the 29th, you can come and learn how to take your law firm to the next level in New Orleans at the fabulous Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Go to pilma.org/summit.
Yeah, for sure. I like that idea. Do you feel like that repetition is important, right?
Yeah,
I mean, people got to remember it.
And then we call them out too. We say, anytime we're having a meeting or something, all right, Mike, what's our theme for this quarter? And they got to recite it. You ever
hear, I forget who told me this. Maybe you've heard this before. Someone had a new team member at a company, and they said to him, all right, we're gonna have a team huddle on Wednesday, and you got to recite the core values. Okay, so know those core values. So Wednesday comes, and he hands the new guy a match, and he lights the match, and he says, not only do you got to recite the core values, you got to do it before it burns your finger.
Oh my gosh. Pressure.
I don't know if you want to try that in your business
No,
or not.
no,
I
I'm
have
not
not
gonna do
done
that.
that.
I'm afraid I'll get sued.
Right.
Yeah. So tell me some of the things you do to try to really, because it sounds like I did not realize you're reading a lot of good stuff. And I think reading is also a very important part of growing. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
what have you done from the Lencioni studies and books to try to help your people try to build them
Well,
up as a team?
Ideal Team Player is on our bookshelves. It's something that I try to encourage our leadership team to look at and try to keep first and foremost. He had another one. I think he changed it. There was one that was a real classic. I think he changed the title around a little bit. But that was also, there's two that we have in-house, I believe. I think in August is a global leadership summit where he talks sometimes, and we have some of the YouTube videos for that, which is great. So we have a physical bookshelf in our office, which again, shout out to Arnie for encouraging that. And we try to encourage that. We try to highlight various books. Last year, Brene Brown was one of the ones that we did, one of her books. This year, we have another female author, Amy Morin. In our firm, we do skew a little bit more female. And so our leadership team, we want to be mindful of that. And so those are two great female authors anyway, I think are relevant in today's society. So, I think that all of that leadership stuff, and then also meeting people where they are, I think is like, what's frequent check-ins with people, what's going on, how you doing, whatever they want to share in their personal life or whatever. How are you? How you doing? Getting to know everybody at the firm. Is there something we can do to lift you up? Is there an area of your life that would benefit from, we could suggest different books. Part of our bookshelf, we have some legal books. We've got some of these leadership books. We've got some, personal growth books. We've got some spiritual books, that kind of stuff. And then whatever else people need. I mean, we've got a couple of people getting married in the firm this year, and I'm offering to pay for an engaged couples weekend, to kind of prepare for their matrimony and try to strengthen their relationship. So, yeah.
But you're talking, but here's what you're doing. You're letting these people know that you care about them and that you want to help them grow. And here's what I've always said, Mike, when they know how much you care, that's when they start caring about you and what you want. You know what I'm saying? I really believe that. In fact, I got a client, a lawyer I'm consulting with, and we were talking about it. And, he says, I got to be a better leader. He said, I don't feel like my staff thinks I care about them. I said, start taking one of them out to lunch every week and just sit down with them and ask them about their family, what they're doing, what their goals in life are, what is it that they're trying to do, how do they want to grow individually, professionally, and what can you do to help them? I said, and once you do that and you're sincere and authentic, you will have a employee that will jump in front of a bullet for you because they're going to know how much you really care. If you really do care, now it's got to be authentic because people can see BS, right? But if you mean it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Those are really words of encouragement for me. I really appreciate you saying that, Ken, because, you just think about all the things that we do day to day. I mean, obviously God first, family, and then the law, the actual law. I mean, right? I mean, we have real clients. We have serious injuries. We have death cases. We have paralysis cases. We've got, really complex people. We've got really smart defense lawyers being paid big bucks by these big companies that we're up against. And you think about as leaders, all of the different balls in the air, and yet culture and caring for other people is really right up there and something that can easily be neglected if you're not intentional about it. Almost I've heard somebody say almost like exercise. What do you think? You have to keep kind of working at it, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, for sure, and here's the deal with all this pandemic, saw a lot of the big resignation, but what I saw across the country, Mike, was that the firms that had the really good cultures, they didn't lose hardly anybody, or if so, very few. It was the firms that didn't have a good culture, they lost a lot, or they didn't have good leadership. You know what I'm saying? Because that does make a difference. I mean, it really does. In fact, there's a book out that I would suggest everybody
Mm.
read. It's called The Stay Interview. I've recommended it for my masterminds in Pilma, all of them, because, and I've actually practiced what I preach. I did it with my people here at Pilma. I sit down with them for 30 minutes and I ask them, when was the last time you thought about leaving us? Why? What can we do to make it better here? If this was your firm, what would you do different than what I'm doing? Be honest. I can take it because you probably know more what's going on than I do. You know, Renee Brown said, be vulnerable. You know, you got to be vulnerable for people to really believe you, I think, and connect with you. So be honest about it. You know, I know we're big, tough lawyers, but hey, we don't know everything. I've often said, you know, I feel sometimes like when I had the big firm, felt like a big general sitting on the hill, you know, and I see the big picture, but I can't really know what's going on the front lines because I don't get into the weeds every day, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, you run reports and all that stuff, but still, how's people's morale? That's very important. You know, I always said, the way you treat your employees, the way your employees are going to treat your clients. So,
and this month in particular is nationally they got these hashtags or whatever they call it, Mental Health Awareness Month.
right.
And I just talking to a firm about that yesterday. Is that mental health is such a important topic to keep at the forefront, and I think that my generation, I don't think it was something we kind of swept under the rug a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't really talk about it. I don't know. Your
No.
generation probably the same thing, right?
Oh, my generation, if you went to a shrink, you were crazy. No,
Right.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
if you went to a shrink, you were crazy or cat, you know. But I mean, I've been to it. I mean, you know, but I think you need to sometimes. You need somebody to talk to, if nothing else. But anyway, what's the best advice you ever got in your life, Mike?
Wow, that's a great one. I mean, I'm a believer, so I mean, I try to get into the scripture. You know, Jesus is my guy, right? I'm a Jesus freak, so I go to Sermon on the Mount, man. I go to the greatest commandment is to love one another. I guess I'd start there. You know, I'd be one of those guys that if you said, "Who do you want to spend dinner with?" or whatever, yeah, JC would be first.
I got you. What would be your best advice to our listeners out there if they're thinking about going out on their own or they're just getting started, you know, and they really, you know, looks overwhelming? What would you tell them?
Well, it is. It can be overwhelming. It is really challenging. What I honestly would say is if you can get experience and mentorship, I mean, if you're talking about a young lawyer in particular, you know, I sometimes, we talk to some young lawyers. I go and talk and take people out for coffee or whatever I can do to help. And having those mentors, I mean, right? I mean, that's what we've been talking about in this interview, and is so important. So I think the biggest thing is surrounding yourself with those folk. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and really trying to prepare and do some homework on it, because it is a big deal to make that decision. And, you know, it is, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's a noble profession. I still believe that. And I still believe that it is an honor to represent somebody who is injured and to meet their family and to walk into their home and to prepare for trial with them and walk the walk with them. And it's a sacred situation to me. So I would not have felt comfortable myself, you know, getting out of law school and just hanging a shingle. I would not have felt comfortable with that. You know, putting the time in the minor league, so to speak, and getting the experience and getting the mentorship is great. Now, that being said, man, it's fantastic to have your own business and grow your own business. And, you know, if you're doing it for the right reasons and you do care about injured people's rights and you do care about standing up for big companies against big companies, absolutely. We need more. We need more warriors, don't we, Ken?
Absolutely right. You know, yeah, for sure. I agree. Well, good deal. Well, if anybody wants to get up with you, follow up with you, pick your brain, or refer you a case, how can they do that, Mike?
Well, I appreciate that. So we were fortunate enough to get a single digit number. So you can call or text 401-777-7777 24/7, and I will get back to you for sure. And obviously we're on, I'm on personally on Instagram, Mike Bottaro. It's probably two easiest ways to get a hold of me. And we take all that stuff real seriously. I am here in person. I'm not in another state or another country. I'm in the community, and we love helping people.
Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you and talking about all this leadership and Lesione and teamwork and culture. It's the stuff that a lot of lawyers, they just want to talk about getting more cases. But if you don't have this, you're not going to be able to handle those cases and you're not going to get referrals, I can promise you. You're just not. Okay. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.